what happens to your life? I mean, overnight it gets 1 million views. When you go back to school the next day, are people starting to realize, or does it take time before people fully understand around you what's happening?
Yeah, I think I was out of town on like some school trip while it was all going down. And so I came back a few days later. And so it had been a few more days of like garnering up attention. And yeah, the first day back at school was pretty intense. Which, like, looking back, I'm like, I don't know why this happened, but like at recess, like every kid in the school just like came up and like I guess had questions or were like so equally confused and like
Wow, okay.
trying to, I don't know, do something, all being 12-year-olds.
So at first it wasn't like super negative amongst your peers. They were mostly just curious what the heck was going on.
Yeah, I think so.
That's
I think
okay.
so. And then, I mean, honestly, like from that point, because everything got so insane in like my world, and now there were all these opportunities and obligations and, you know, us trying to figure out what was going on. I didn't spend a lot of time at school. And so,
Really?
yeah, I mean, I started doing like pretty poorly in my classes, and which like my parents being in like medicine are obviously like insane about, you know, their expectations. So I started doing like really poorly. So they ended up taking me out of school and putting me in a homeschool to finish the year. There were only like a couple months of the year left. And yeah, I mean, I had definitely some experiences with some kids in middle school around the time it was like really happening that were pretty shitty, you know,
Really?
just kids like being stupid,
Yeah.
you know, saying little things or singing the song in like a clearly not, you know,
Yeah.
positive way, which like I wasn't looking for people to be like, I love your song, like you're amazing. Like even that felt really weird to me because I was like, well, I didn't like this feels like it has nothing to do with me and what I wanted to do, you know?
Right.
So yeah, it was pretty much just that.
That's interesting. So you did homeschooling for a few months just because
A
you
few
had
years actually.
a few years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Was that almost to get away from all the, because I feel like it would have been pretty hard for you to be, or maybe not hard, but different for you to be going through like high school and middle school and stuff normally.
Yeah.
In the face of all that.
Yeah, it was. I mean, because it just kind of like kept ballooning in my world, and like I got pretty isolated from some of my friends because obviously like I was in a really weird headspace and tackling a bunch of issues that I'd never dealt with before, and my friends were also probably like, hello, like where the fuck are you and what are you doing when I'm like up here, you know, for the first time and working and trying to figure out what the hell is happening. So it was, I spent my first couple years of high school doing like online school. And yeah, that was like probably the lowest pit of my like emotional.
Yeah, I can
health.
imagine that would be super isolating, just not
Yeah.
being at home, doing
Yeah.
school there. And then like, I don't know, do you even get to socialize at that point?
I found some friends through like Tumblr actually, which was how I kind of got connected to YouTube when I was like 16. I would just spend so much time online, and yeah, I kind of lost like a lot of my friends from before, lost a lot of connection with them and just kind of did my own thing. And like my parents were obviously working full time. My brother was in school, so I was alone for the majority of like being 14 and 15, other than, you know, coming up and doing like at that time I was with a manager that wanted me to go record new music and, you know, do all this other stupid shit, honestly. And yeah, it was really, really a pretty intense period.
So when you say that was the lowest point for you during that whole arc, like how old were you at that point? Like 14, 15?
14, 15.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just overall, like feeling like depressed and stuff like that.
I
or-
was so depressed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was on, at one point, I went and saw a therapist. I was on antidepressants. Those did nothing for me. I mean, I basically like, I think the thing that I felt at that time was like, whoa, how did this just happen? Where like I was, less than a couple years ago or less than a year ago, I was in a place where I was like exploring and like so excited about like what my future could be like like before Friday ever happened. I was like such a like happy little musical theater kid, like so excited and passionate. And like at that point, I literally felt like all of that had just been like sucked out of me. And now I don't even get to like explore that. Like everyone has said like, no, we don't want you here. You don't belong here. You've actually ruined the sanctity of this for all of us. And like, all of the scathing, like ruthless reviews that were going on at the time. And then also like dealing with now being a kid in the industry where like everyone is, taking advantage of everything, that you want to do or think that they should have you do so that they can capitalize off of it. Like it's really hard being a kid in a world where like you're in an industry where everyone is only just trying to figure out how they can, capitalize off of you.
Do you have any regrets kind of how it was handled? Do you regret being homeschooled or doing the video at the time? Did you regret doing the video at all? Do you wish you could just like go back in time or?
Oh, I probably had huge regrets.
Yeah.
At the time. Yeah. Cause I felt like I'd literally like ruined my life.
Yeah.
I was like,
like
what
it
am I going to do?
Just pushed you to like mature overnight because it's almost like before you were this kid that could just be a kid and naive and like you said, explore and imagine what the future would be. And then like and maybe not overnight, but over like a couple months.
Yeah. I mean, I think that all of a sudden now, like once everything happened, my brain to cope was just like, well, how do I make people not hate me?
Shit. Yeah.
So I like just tried to, cope with what I thought that could be and became, not that any 13-year-olds have a sense of self, but like that development for me was so delayed because my whole teenagehood became like, how do I become, how do I find a group that like identifies with me and like thinks I'm like, not this like bizarre, like weird, dejected person. And which might sound like extreme to people who are listening, but it like being a kid, like you have no other experience.
That doesn't sound extreme at all.
To base your life.
No,
on.
the experience you went through was like, I mean, nobody else, your experience was so unique that I can imagine it'd be super hard to find anybody to relate with you.
Yeah. I mean, I was really isolated and I spent a lot of my time online. Like that was what's so ironic about the whole thing is like, I spent so much time isolated by myself trying to find who I was that like that was when like my love for like music and finding the artists that like really resonated with me and all of that really began. Whereas like I was like, just like a little 13-year-old like Justin Bieber stan before. Like that's how I feel like I started to find like some semblances of like real deep love for music was because that was literally like all I had alone in my room and Tumblr. And yeah, it was an intense.
Were you guys ever able to make any money from that whole situation?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I own the master to the song.
Okay.
I didn't write it, so I don't own the publishing, but I own the
So
master.
you own the recording. So anytime anybody used the song, you get paid. And then also, does ARC get paid for the writing? How does that work?
Can't talk about that.
Oh, you can't talk about that. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's nice though that you at least made a little bit of money from it. And are you still getting paid for sometimes people use it and
Yeah, sometimes.
Nice.
I mean, I like have a lot of other stuff going on now, luckily, that it's not my, main source of revenue, but it did. I mean, my like the way that it works in the entertainment industry is like when you're underage, the way it's supposed to work at least is like if you're an underage person in the industry, you get a Coogan account set up. So when you turn 18,
Right.
20% of everything you've made gets opened up to you and only you. Which my parents would have never like touched that shit. But yeah, so.
Do you
that
find it
helped me.
totally crazy as someone who was super famous as a child, how on YouTube there's like no protection laws for kids?
It's insane.
Isn't it so crazy? It
It's
blows my mind every time.
I know. Yeah, it's really interesting to see like the world of like the family vloggers and like the kid influencers. And I remember like growing up and then becoming friends with a lot of YouTubers and hearing their stories about supporting their families. And I mean, it's a really like, yeah, I wouldn't know how to go about that, but like, it seems like by now there should be more in place.
So
For sure.
when you say that there's an account that needs to be made and the 20%, like that stuff doesn't happen on YouTube families, or I guess
I
there's
don't
just
know.
It
I don't know.
nobody
It's
watches.
supposed to in the entertainment industry. Like
It doesn't, I don't think, because YouTube is
crazy.
kind of,
removed.
it's outside.
Right.
It's outside the thing. But
So
yeah.
it's like whatever they
that's-
choose to do is what. they
Dude, if
do.
there's
Yeah.
some
Crazy,
kids
yeah.
where there's some channels where they're using their kids to make like kids content or video.
Yeah.
I mean, the biggest one, and I'm not saying they're doing anything wrong. I don't know, but this one, Ryan's Toys Reviews, dude, they probably make hundreds of millions of dollars.
Right, I know
like,
that one
legit.
because I think one time it was like the most earning channel or
Subscriber
most
owning or
subscribers
some-
or
yeah.
something. Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's
Yeah.
still popping, but
Wow.
this kid Ryan, who's he's super young when they started, and you know,
I've never seen anything bad about them, so
Yeah.
there's a chance that they
Yeah.
are responsible.
I
But
mean, I hope so.
but
I
there's
hope.
so many other ones. It's just
yeah,
Yeah.
I-
Well, and even now, like you see, like these like kids on TikTok, right, who are getting all these brand deals, and like, I mean, I'm lucky that like my parents had at least like some right guidance because they had no fucking idea what to do. Like set me up with like a company that like I'm the sole, you know, I mean, at least when I turned 18, I became the sole owner of and like had my stuff protected.
Yeah.
Which every person, every child in the industry should have.
Yeah.
Or like, I mean, even like labor laws. Like
Yeah.
that was
Right.
something that I learned about when I even like would go on like a late night set as a 13-year-old.
Oh,
Is like
right.
you have to have a set teacher. You're only allowed to be like working for a
Wow.
certain period of days
Yeah.
or
It's
certain
super-
hours, you know?
The
Wow.
laws of
Yeah.
working with children is crazy strict,
Crazy.
and on YouTube, none of that shit
No.
applies.
Even when I was on the Katy Perry video, like I was a co-star on her video for last Friday night,
Yeah.
and that was so strict. You
Really?
know?
Like,
Yeah.
what was it like? What,
I mean, I hated it at the time, obviously, because I'm like, why am I doing school? But I would like get to set, had to have a set teacher with me at every point.
how long were you on set?
I was on probably for like, I don't know, 12, 14 hours. I don't remember.
Just one
honestly.
time?
A couple days.
A couple
Yeah.
days. Okay. So
Yeah.
this teacher was with you the whole time?
They have to be with you for a certain, I don't know the rules.
Do they actually
exactly.
teach you shit, or is it just like bureaucracy?
I think because I was doing online school, I did like majority of. She was basically just supposed to like be there to encourage me
Okay.
to do it. But probably
Okay.
knowing me, I was like on Twitter the whole time.
Mm-hmm,
So you know, there could be more work done, and you know.
So
making
what
sure those-
what other things happened on set for you in like the Katy
Oh,
Perry
God.
video?
That one was so rare. I met Corey Feldman.
The king.
The king. He was really very sweet, actually, and like playing on his like Nintendo DS the whole time. Katy Perry was honestly like so cool to me back in the day, and so just like sat down with me and like talked to me several times.
Oh, that's nice.
And, just kind of gave me like some advice. Glee was like huge at the time. I got to meet them. I don't remember what else.
There was also something that I remember kind of during that 2-year period you mentioned, where the original music video was on Arc Music Factory, and then it moved to your personal channel.
Yes, it got re-uploaded.
What I have to imagine that there was some kind of issue there.
I can't really
Yeah,
talk about it.
okay.
I mean, I'm sure if people like can read about it.
Okay, there is
You know.
information about it. But
yeah.
that situation, whatever it was, must have been really intense too.
Yeah. I mean, at the time, I was honestly pretty shielded from anything other than like my experience just being a kid. And my parents wanted to keep it that way of like, you know, anything messy or
So your
inappropriate
parents
for a
were,
13-year-old to be involved in shouldn't be.
yeah.
But yeah, it was like a very confusing period.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did your parents feel like they made a mistake, or were they kind of feeling heat from this whole situation too?
Probably. You know, I mean, I think, yeah, I'm probably due to check in with them again because it's like, we've all learned so much and kind of in hindsight have looked at it in a whole new lens. And I think that now, like, my parents are just happy that I'm like doing something that I love and able to take care of myself. And, you know, I do think that there's pieces of that experience that made me who I am today and put me where I am today. But yeah.
This comment is the tea is confidential. Also, people keep asking me if we've talked about Patrice. She is unable to discuss Patrice as it relates to Friday. Are you able to talk about Patrice as it relates to other things?
I can't.
You can't. Okay, fair enough.
I can't.
Respect.
Yeah. Sorry to everyone.
Keep it smart. No. Don't, no.
You know?
Hey, listen. You gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you feel
We could say this for legal reasons. You can't discuss it. Can you say that, or you won't even go that far?
Say that.
You can't say that.
You can say that.
I can say that. Okay. So you neither confirm nor deny what I just said.
I
That
cannot
is for legal.
conform.
Okay, there it is.
Confirm,
Wow.
nor deny.
Yeah, there's some serious business happening. Okay.
There's some serious biz.
Yeah, serious business. Yeah, I wouldn't want to cross Patrice either. That dude scares the shit out of me. He threatened me once.
Really?
Yes.
Or he actually had me hiding. He had me leave my house. I was so scared.
We literally did. We did.
He did some live stream.
Wow.
He
where-
did like a time count, like counting backwards to something.
Wow.
And nobody knew
He had
what.
H3 in the
And
title.
there was H3 in the title.
And it was like a static live shot of a bathroom curtain that kept moving. And I was like, this is fucking
it was
terrifying.
Very
That's
scary.
cryptic.
It was
That's
scary.
I would be scared too.
So we
Actually,
actually like drove away from the house for whatever is happening at that count
Wow.
ending to not be there because we were
Also,
like
Wow.
scared.
we first discovered it. I was actually doing a show with Post Malone, and then someone's like, "Yo, you got to pull up Patrice's channel," and we were watching it. And we were so scared, and then and also he's fucking like insanely like superhuman jacked, and
Yeah,
he
that too.
scares me. That boy ain't right.
If there's one thing I like don't fuck with, is like anytime I feel like my safety is like, I mean, because people be out here being.
Have you
That's
ever felt unsafe during this whole situation?
Yeah. Not necessarily related to any of the people that we've talked about, but like being a young woman online attracts, unfortunately, naturally, like some really insane people. And I've had some experiences where people who have inappropriately showed up at some of my parents' businesses, have showed up at my shows, who have made some comments or written some crazy emails. I one time when I went back to public high school had like a letter sent to my school. Yeah.
Like what? What did the letter say?
It was like it was sent to the police department, or I don't know. I got called out of school for it, but just like some like gibberish remarks about me and my family, and you know, classic like
Jesus.
nonsense stuff. Yeah.
Like serial killer shit.
It was, I mean, they ended up like tracking it down and realizing it was like a, you know, like.
Oh, they investigated it.
Yeah, I mean, they have to, against like a child.
So that's terrifying. I mean, I've had stuff like to me happen as an adult, and it
as an
scares me.
adult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there were death threats like right after Friday. We had a security officer outside our house for like a month.
So was that like a
wow.
state issued security officer, or was that like private
know.
security?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good question.
That's crazy.
Yeah. People be out here doing some really, really insane things and saying some insane things.
Yeah.
you know.
It's just kind of interesting to think back, like how angry this video. I feel like that just must have fucked with a young person's head, like being hated by so many people for literally no reason, really. At the end of the day, you're just having fun. Didn't even mean for it to go online.
Yeah, I mean, it did, but for whatever reason, I'm here.
Yeah.
And I ended up like with some mix of, you know, therapy and also I think probably trying to reason with whatever happened to me. Like I, for the past 7 years since being out here, like have been so dedicated to just doing something for myself and the audience that I have had and built like over the last few years, especially. And, you know, I mean, I think I got to a point where like, how depressing would it be if I literally like just did nothing? I've discarded like all of these things I was so passionate about, you know, as a kid, and like the joy that something brought me as a kid.
I think that to me is the coolest part about your journey. And I think it resonates with a lot of people too. Like you would assume after going through all that you would just be like, I'm exiting this whole thing. But what's interesting and I think really commendable is that you actually stuck with it and continue to like, I mean, the stuff you do now obviously is your own thing. It sounds great.
Thank you.
The EP you dropped was really good.
Thank you.
And I'm definitely going to listen to your new album coming out next month on the 8th.
The 9th, February 9th.
Yes, everybody. Go to Best Buy and open it on all the tablets and just let it run, right? It streams.
Best Buy, Apple, Target.
Yeah. Apple's a good one. There's lots of open tablets there.
Yeah.
But it's actually super commendable and awesome that you stayed with it and turned it into a positive experience for you.
Yeah. I mean, well, I found a really like, again, I ironically, like through this experience, I found such a passion and an outlet in music. And I really, you know, as I started to get older and look back on what had happened to me, I had said like to myself, like, I want to do this right. And I want to do this in, you know, a way that like feels really good to me. And as somebody who, as a child and for like a long period of my life, had no control over any piece of her life, what happened to her, what was said about her, what people thought about her, you know, what she can and can't say, like I like fuck, like the one thing I'm gonna do is like find something for myself and do it with my like whole ass pussy. And then some. And again, like I've been so lucky to find an audience that has like really resonated with my journey and my music and what I'm here to do. And like I'm here to be a fucking pop star. Like I've always known that ever since I started, you know, really trying to harness like what my music could sound like and what the visions I had for myself could look like. Like I've just followed that. And yeah, so I hope people listen to the album because
they're going to on
you know,
February 9th.
February 9th.
Y'all better be opening and listening and streaming 24 hours. So what was there a point during, you know, your this process of living through this where you said I'm going to try making like music for myself that other people would maybe want to listen to as well?
I think it was more so, well, it was a, you know, really like complicated process in terms of like I had to work backwards basically. And whereas like most, I think, music artists would like write a few songs and like those would kind of, you know, just kind of live in the sanctity of their own worlds before anything maybe gains traction. Like I had such a kick me sign on my back and like so much, I guess, kind of up against me that I needed to push through just to get people to even like give it any sense of legitimacy. And so I spent a lot of years like writing a ton of shit, ton of bad stuff, ton of like maybe okay stuff, and just trying to like really understand to me, like, what if I had something to say that has nothing to do with like what I've been through? Like, what would, but also everything to do with what I've been through. Like, what would that look like and what would that sound like? And, you know, I just tried to follow like the sounds and the things that I felt so inclined towards and like aligned with, and tried to make music for that. So I think for a period it was like, let's make music that's digestible, but that actually didn't do anything for me either. It was like, let me make music that I get to at the end and I'm like, this is mine. This is mine and nobody else's. And I don't really care if people like it or not. I know that like this is a valid something because it feels at least like me.
And when you
which I never got to have with Friday, you know?
Right. When you started posting it online again, a lot of people must have been like, she can't be serious. Like, she's coming out trying to make music again? Or was there
Probably.
a lot of people who were like, okay, I can fuck with this? Or were you not even in the comments?
I'm always in the comments.
I know.
I think that it's periodically like changed over time. And, you know, come like a couple years ago when I started putting out my last EP, Rebecca Black was here, and I put out the 10-year Friday remix. Like, that felt like the moment where, and I came out, I talked about my experience, I think a little bit more with Friday, just like honestly, and what I was feeling. And that resonated with people, I think, more than anything else. And I have always followed that, like, or tried to follow, I guess, that line of myself, and just, you know, have like trust that there'll be people that see that resonate with.
They certainly do. I mean, you have like a really dedicated fans, man. They love you. And in the chat, lots of love for you. And just next door in Teddy Fresh, you have like like people were like,
so cool. That really is like, it's so cool for me, and like means so much for me to hear. Even if like one person I meet is like
definitely more than one person.
Yeah,
like when Hila reached out to me on Instagram, I was like, "Ole fuck."
Well, some
because
of y'all,
that wasn't always the case.
Some of you guys on the crew were fans who were like, "Yo, we should check out Rebecca Black." Yeah, Olivia.
I love your new music. I love your new music.
Oh, and Ian, by the way,
is the culture.
He's our
the
culture
tastemaker here.
Wow. Which one are you talking about, Ian, that you love?
Well, your song with Slater. Was one of my favorite tracks that year. I love that song.
Dude, that's huge
Slater
coming from
iconic.
Ian. He barely even talks. So that means a lot.
Wow. Yeah, no, I mean, it means so much that people are like listening and like vibing. And like, I did my first headlines last year in US and in Europe, and like I got to sell out so many of those shows.
Crazy.
I got to go to Australia and play shows, and like Friday is a fucking bop live.
Can you ever do that live? Like, how do you?
I always do it live.
No way.
Actually, I won't confirm or deny that. You'll have to come to the show and see it.
So you hit it like the old school Friday?
No, I played the
remix.
Yeah, the remix.
I did a remix in 2021.
Can you play the old school Friday?
Yeah.
You can?
Yeah.
Okay.
That would be
just curious.
But I did a remix that was produced by Dylan Brady of 100 Gex, and that had Dorian Electra, Big Frida, 303 on it. We did a whole video.
Yeah, how'd you get that together? How do you get in the process of getting all those?
It was psychotic.
Yeah.
I mean, I had the idea for so long, and it was basically just a matter of like tracking people down and being like, this would be so fucking cool if you did this. Will you do it? And like people like Dorian and Dylan, I had like become a little bit friends with through working together, meeting each other. And everyone was just like psyched about it.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like the way you've handled like owning it has been perfect.
For sure.
Yeah.
Like putting out the remix and showing that you kind of like have a new creative spin on it. And in a way, it's kind of like launching your new direction at the same time, but also saying like, yeah, this is also my past.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to like run away from it.
And making that remix wasn't about like, and now I'm going to show you guys that this is actually a good song. It was like, let me take this thing that I had no control of
right.
and do something absolutely batshit with it, and in a way that like fits all of my creative, like, you know, I don't know, things and pieces and inspirations that I love. And also like there's so many tributes to that era. Like there's the troll memes in there. There's like all these like really fun things that I was stoked to be able to include in that, as like, this is a crazy moment, you know, looking at how the internet has even changed over the past 10 years. Now you have artists like that almost make cringe like really cool. And that's been a really cool thing to see, just as like a watcher of how pop culture shifted.
I think what's interesting too, kind of about your path, is that a lot of the people who, you know what I was thinking? Friday's a lot like 9/11. And let me tell you why.
Okay.
Let me tell you why. It's because everybody remembers where they were. I remember where I was in my life during the Friday thing. I remember.
In Israel.
It might even be more 9/11 than 9/11, if I'm being honest.
Oh my God.
Okay.
I was in Israel, and, you know, it was like such a huge moment. What, Dan?
I just had to jump in and say, I remember exactly where
See, everybody remembers.
Saying as I used to say,
Yeah.
I actually do.
Wow.
I was in college. I was in a set building class, and a friend of mine walked up to me and was like, "Hey, you seen this?" And yeah, no, you're right. You're right.
Everybody's saying same.
See, what's insane is like my girlfriend that I've been dating for the last year was so unaware of Friday. She lived in Paris
Wow.
at the time.
Wow.
And
Okay,
like,
Paris vibes.
I know. But she was like so unaware of anything that had happened, and like knew of my name because we had found mutual friends and all of that. But yeah, I unfortunately like came to a point where I was like, I feel like I have to make you watch this to like get the full picture of what's going on here.
Was it kind of nice, I guess, that she doesn't know?
I don't really
Maybe.
care.
You
I mean,
don't
as long as you're not like a dick to me about it, I like, you know, it is what it is.
Yeah.
So, but my point, I guess, was that we all remember where we were.
That is really true.
I was working.
Yeah.
This is before I had a career.
Pre-YouTube.
Before I even wanted to be on YouTube or make a
Yeah.
YouTube, or even kind of when I was still learning about what YouTube was.
Right.
That was when Friday hit. Wow. And I think a lot of the people who were younger at that time and saw that go down and participated in all this Friday mania, and now seeing you grown up and hearing about your experience now, I feel like a lot of people are now rooting for you and wanting to support you as a result of realizing how fucked up that situation was, and then coming out and seeing that you weren't like defeated by that. I think a lot of people want to support that, myself included. You know what I mean?
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really sweet. And
Everyone's had a lot of time to mature and then realize, oh, that was so crazy and fucked
well,
up.
shit's gotten like worse in the world. I mean, shit was probably really bad in 2011 too, but like there's bigger fish to fry. But then again, I still see like all the time the internet, which even this was the case when I was a kid, is I would like some of the tweets I remember so specifically that I would get that were like the grossest, like meanest thing.
Like what, if you remember them?
Oh, just stuff that was like, you should kill yourself, you ugly bitch. Like,
yeah, that hurt.
We're coming from people who had like, I'm an anti-bullying advocate like, in their bio on Twitter.
Wow.
And I still see that shit all over the place with like these young girls and kids who get online and are just like, I mean, I have an almost 8-year-old sister, and like I see her on TikTok every day, just like using it, like watching shit, and I'm like, please, like stay like safe and pure and like all of that, because people are ruthless still, you know?
Well, what's your advice to kids as someone who's been through probably the most crazy experience on social media? How do you survive that? Like, how do you keep sane through all that?
Well, if you're dealing, I mean, I guess my advice would more so be to like adults than to kids, because to me, kids like should not be the ones in charge of like, you know, not getting bad comments or hate given towards them or inappropriate comments. If you're a kid and like you're dealing with things that feel really difficult, like you shouldn't be. That wasn't the most eloquent way to say that, but like if you're getting hateful comments online or things said about you, like, one, that's not just something that you have to deal with as like a kid or that you deserve to deal with. You deserve to be able to have like a creative output and a creative outlet and to be safe. You know, you don't have to earn that as a child. I think more so my advice would be to parents of like, I see so many parents nowadays kind of like their big way of dealing with the internet with their kids is like, don't look at it. Like, you're not allowed to have it. And like, you're not allowed to do any of this. And no, which I understand, but kids are going to find their way on it. Like, I wish I saw more parents like actually taking the time to like be just aware of like what even like actually TikTok is, or like what actually goes down, or like talk to your kid like in a way that's not judgmental or like condescending about what they're watching or intaking. Just be aware so that your kid feels like they can come to you if something goes wrong. You know, that was always like the thing that really helped me, was at least I could come to my parents and like, and my mom specifically, and just be like, I am so confused and lost. And, you know, she could just support me through that. And like, I don't know. But
we have 2 young boys. So this is actually something I've always been wondering, or I've been thinking about a lot as they get older and the social media thing becomes inevitable.
Yeah.
But I think that's really good advice, because it's like abstinence only education. I mean, you're not going to keep them off.
Yeah.
And
I was a kid in a situation where my dad just didn't let me do anything.
Really?
Like just nothing. So I hated that, you know. So I know
really
how that
fucked her up,
feels.
too.
Really?
And that's not
She's
healthy
super
in any way.
dysfunctional.
Yeah. Well, did you
really
go and
bad.
find it elsewhere anyway, or no?
Yes, I did. But if not at that moment, then you do it later, which is also like just annoying, because you don't get to do it with your friends when they're doing it.
Well, and
like, it's just isolating.
Yeah. And it's so, I don't know. I just think it's really backwards. And then again, I'm not a parent, so take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. But like, to see any like way of progress moving in terms of like, well, we can't allow the children to be a part of this because it's the children that are online that are the problem. No, it's the inappropriate people that are online, and the hateful people, or the people who use the internet as like some weird anonymous outlet to say shit to get through their own life. Like that's the issue. So why aren't we doing something about that?
I think that's the best advice. If a parent can like go spend time on the app, see what it is, and creating like an open door, a judgmental door, judgment-free door for their kids is definitely, I think, the best. The best.
I don't know. We're all also like watching this go down. So,
right.
You know.